from that. So last week we teased that we would be reviewing American Skin. It's that time. Who wants to take this one away first? Who wants to take this one away first?
That shit was hard.
Yeah.
that shit was hard. And you know what? It broke my heart at the end. I mean, to the point where, man, I almost cried. Because I really felt that shit.
I don't know why that's funny, but
no, I mean, look, I know we goofy like that, but no, that movie was, because I watched it around the same time I watched One Night in Miami as well. So I was in taking all of that shit.
Yeah. Okay. Did you watch a comedy after? Because, like,
nah, most likely
that's a heavy movie.
Most likely I went right into a scary movie. So everything was just fucked up at that point.
Okay. You needed to burn some sage after that.
But I got a lot. There were a lot of complaints before the movie came out because a lot of people predicted that it was going to be one of those kumbaya endings, and they were wrong. You know what I mean? So it got an A+ from me. Well done.
Okay.
I don't think it's being talked about enough either.
It's not. I was just gonna say that.
That's all politics, though. That's because of Nate Parker and his former rape charge. That's the only reason this isn't being talked about more.
So, okay, all of that aside, right? Because we, whatever. I always did respect and admire Nate Parker's dedication to telling Black stories. I mean, how I came to learn of him was through Black films that he made, right? Like, well, not made, but starred in. Like, The Great Debaters, I think, might have been one of the first ones. I mean, Birth of a Nation, it was harder to watch than American Skin, believe it or not. But, I mean, he played Nate Turner like no other. And, he had a big role in bringing that story to life. So yeah, I mean, didn't disappoint in this one either. I really and truly believe that everyone needs to watch this movie, especially people who don't understand or are opposed to the BLM movement. Because, all right, well, spoiler alert, listeners, but I mean, first of all, you really feel his pain throughout it, right? And it really just tells the story from a veteran's perspective, which, not a lot of people really would correlate a veteran and, a sympathizer with the Black Lives Matter movement. But just as a parent, which anyone who has a kid, to me, it's always incredulous as I'm fighting the good fight with most of my friends and family who are, anti-BLM, basically. It's like if you have kids, how could you not look at everyone as somebody's kid and not imagine that pain that person's family must feel? It's like, how can you be insensitive to it? So I think he captured that, perspective perfectly. I think that it really does reinforce the need to tell Black stories, which honestly, everyone, on this show right now in our own way, I think we've dedicated some portion of our lives to that. So I think that really reinforces our mission, right? I mean, the fact that they had the documentary being made and his strategy behind that, as he decided to go and basically hold the precinct hostage after the cop got off. I mean, that was genius. And just that conversation that occurs between, I mean, law enforcement, civilians, obviously himself, and, prisoners. I mean, you really think about it, that's all the pieces of the puzzle in one room. And how else would that have ever happened? So kudos to whomever really wrote that, because, I mean, I think that conversation is really what America needs right now. And, there were a few things that really got summed up so well. One, the conversation about hip hop, right? We are the Breaks Radio. We'd be remiss if we did not bring that up. And it kind of goes into the coon artist and the lack of ownership and the selling out that we talked about earlier. But basically, one of the inmates, when hip hop was brought up, and it was like, one of the cops had said, well, listen to what, you guys listen to. Like, we don't want our kids around that, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, one of the inmates were like, but your kids do listen to it. They buy this music. And basically, they are paying to keep this music going. And that music is our pain. That's our life. And it's entertainment for you guys. And it becomes a cycle. And then, you know, at some point, these people feel like they have to live that life in order to be successful because that's their way out. So, I mean, and you know what, for what it's worth, I definitely have, I still condemn Kodak Black, but maybe he got caught up in that somewhat. I'll just put that out there. Anyway, long story less long, the other thing that I felt like was really, really important was the fact that he didn't kill the cop, which, by the way, I had anxiety on a trillion the whole damn time. Yes. But that was, you know, and the fact that he ended up, I kind of saw the end of that coming. I don't know if we're trying to tell everything, so I'm gonna not. But I called that. I was like, there's no way this doesn't end well. It can't, right? But you know, just the fact that he wanted that cop to feel how he felt and felt that that was his punishment enough. It was like, that's kind of what we all want, all of the anti-Black Lives Matter people. Like, we want you to understand what it's like to be us. And, you know, the filmmaker who ended up like making a really poignant speech in the end, he really capitalized, like he captured the feeling. How can you be patriotic when this is your life, right? Like, you serve this country and yet you come back to this kind of fate. And then, you know, this is how, for kids in these situations, you're growing up and watching this. And soldiers and police officers are supposed to protect and heal. And you're watching them kill and then have no blame in that. So I feel like, oh my God, I don't want to continue. I know that we have to get to other people, but it was everything. And I just feel like it's a must watch. And the last point that I really want to make is that Omari Hardwick, bro, like, I have to say, a testament to a good actor is when you don't see the character that he's known for and the other things he plays. And I did not see Ghost at all in that movie.
I did see a depressed, like, I saw a depressed soldier. I did.
Yeah.
I did. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a powerful film from start to finish, and I think, you know, this is one where they did try to do their best to show all parts of this conversation. Right? It would have been easy to just paint it as, you know, cops are just inherently wrong, but they did even a good job to paint. Look, the cops are scared as shit.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can't take. They are. Now, does that mean that they need better training, whatever? That's a conversation for another day. But, and then how they even had the woman cop talk about what it's like to be a woman in that, and how she, like, they did a great job with this conversation. When you talk about how it was going to end, it started with an unarmed Black man being killed, and it ended with an unarmed Black man being killed. And that is the reality of America. And that's what I truly feel about it. Marquis?
So I'm really gonna try to keep this as short as possible. Seriously, honestly, and maybe it's just who I am. I kind of knew what was gonna happen the moment he got a jury. I predicted that was gonna happen. I predicted the outcome. I predicted the conversation. I knew what the end result was gonna be, because there's no way in the world they're gonna have this man murder this cop in cold blood. He has to show that I'm better than you. At the end of the day, this is who we are as people. We know what you do to us, but we're still better. We still want more. We just want you to understand what we're going through. And I have to paint this picture so you can get it. And there was no way in the world they were going to let him just walk out. My biggest concern with most of this is the conversations will happen, but what happens next? Because it seems like we always have these conversations. We have these great movies, then there's no follow-up. So imagine this white cop walking out, telling his wife and his son, I'm gone, like, goodbye. And then I've come to grips with what I've done. I want to walk out with you as a man and not as. So what's day 3 look like for him? Because that's in the past. That's recency. You know, that's okay. That's in the past. But you still got to be a cop at the end of the day. You're gonna bleed blue, or you're gonna respect or preach that, you know, Black lives do matter, or you're gonna be surrounded by your fraternity. You know what I mean? So what's the conversation that's gonna happen next? Like, there's so many things that were touched on in this movie that from and I wanted to ask you, Haize, because I know your background was more in the military. Like, how do people deal with that? And another question, as far as Black people coming back from PTSD and the jobs they can get, because he was only able to become a janitor. There's no career trajectory. What's the statistic on Black people coming from a tour or whatever and finding a job, being successful, versus a white person coming back from a tour? And do they go into military contracts? Do they go into the Senate? Do they become political figures?
Can
Like,
I give you I can give you a great
please
example
share.
of that. My father, who is white, served 27 years in the military. My former brother-in-law, well, I still consider him my brother-in-law, even though I'm not married to his sister anymore, served 12 years in the military, so about half. Him and my dad both did 2 tours in Iraq, 1 tour in Afghanistan. When my brother-in-law got out of the military, had to move back in with his parents and couldn't find a job for 18 months. My dad got out of the military, took 6 months off by choice to kind of reset, immediately went into a 7-figure job working for the NSA. So let that just sink in.
So, so one of the statements that was made was when he said, when I forgot his character, but Ghost said, the reason you didn't talk about it because it's the military. You have to live it to understand it. It's the same thing with being Black. You got to live it to understand it. You can't just sit there on your high pedestal and say, you do this, you do that. This is why we can't have conversations with you. No, you don't understand. We're not being defensive. This is real life shit. We're targets. And at the end of the day, like you said, we know he wasn't speeding. We profiled because we had to keep our people safe, and we thought you fit profile. That's the real narrative. So now when he confessed, he said, now I can sleep. Basically, I feel like I've let everything out and I'm comfortable in my own skin. I don't know the exact words the cop said, but that's what it came to. I confess my sins. Now I can sleep better. So when he watched him get shot, when he walked out, everybody walked over his body, no less, walked over his fucking body. And then what did they do? He suffered from mental issues. He basically, he obviously, from Afghan, he had PTSD. They made every fucking excuse to basically say this man died because of what he went, not because of his son, not why he did this, but because he suffered from he had issues, mental issues. So
yeah. But even worse than that, did you catch how then they went to sports and described what I say was like a LeBron? Like, it's like, but Black people now can entertain you. Like, watch these coons. You know what I mean? Like,
there's another conversation that came up in this, and I swear, everybody who says this shit, I just want to smack the fuck out of them. When anyone says that they're colorblind, let's be real. Let's be real. You just have to stop and look at it. I'm colorblind. I don't see color. How could you not? You were raised a certain way. You're gonna see color.
And
Marquis, don't even have to identify it. Yes, sir.
Marquis, ask them if they ever had a coloring book.
So I don't know. Again, the movie for the budget, what he was trying to accomplish, and it's buried. Like, there's no conversation around it. And can we find this movie? $6.99 is being promoted. So funny thing, I actually have.
I know. I really did hit up Marquis and was like, "Yo, you had to pay for American Skin."
Unfortunately, I'm gonna pay for it because of the support. I just didn't pay for it at the time because I needed to be ready for this review. It's funny because I actually have.
You had to think about $6.99.
No, because I don't put my credit card on my TV. Anything I do, I don't put my credit card on my TV. Okay, that's
Carry
on. So I actually have the access to my former CEO's UK account for Prime Video, and I tried to log in to find this movie. It's not over there in the UK. I literally typed it in, and if you go to Amazon UK, you can't find the movie.
Oh,
wow!
That's
my last thing. So again, I swear to you, I'm sorry about this. Why was the movie called American Skin? I didn't do research on this, and I'm wondering. I don't know if it's based on Bruce Springsteen's song "American Skin," where he got about Amadou Diallo, the 41 shots, or is it that it's an American Skin? And I have this whole this. I hate being called African American, number one, because there's no such thing as an African Briton. So I'm not African American. I'm American. You know what I'm saying? But it's all based on your skin. So I'm wondering if That's the direction he took, calling this American Skin, not African American Skin, or I would really like to know exactly why this movie was named American Skin. I didn't do enough research. I'm pretty sure, Haize, you probably have more insight because you're the research genius, but still, it'd be really interesting to hear that. So that's my take on it.
Haize, I didn't come out with this episode. I don't think I'm gonna release it, but the movie was, remember how they got pulled over in a neighborhood that they're not used to being seen in, right? So I work in those type of neighborhoods. And from time to time, when I have downtime, I'll go near the site and just park my car and just chill until I have to get to my shift. They have neighborhood security in those areas that patrol the residents.
Okay.
I got pulled up on by the security and was asked to leave because the resident person that stayed there, the house that I parked in front of, that particular person didn't want me parked there. But that security officer was black. And he was like, "Look, man, I already know what it is. She's calling me right now. Bro, just leave. Because after I leave, if you don't leave, they're going to call the police." There's that.
There you have it. There's nothing left that needs to be said after that.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking, honestly.
And is it ever going to change? That's the thing that makes it heartbreaking. It's like, for the people who don't believe in systemic racism, I just don't understand. Like, it's willful ignorance at this point. And when people say that whole "I don't see color" thing, to me that just means that you're choosing to turn a blind eye to what the fuck we go. That's not a positive to me. That means you're choosing to be blind, because if you can't see it, you're just not seeing how American life is day to day, and you're making that choice not to see it. That's my opinion.
One of the last things he said, he was like, when he said something about everyone else can respond violently, it's okay, but we have to be peaceful when something happens to us.
And that was before January 6th. You know what I mean? That was before the insurrection.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Let's get off this. That is the last topic in this segment. We're gonna come back after a break, and then we're gonna talk about colorism in hip hop, which this may go right back into a dark place. We'll see. We'll be right back after this.
Nice pun.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.